Good afternoon. Welcome to IIT Gandhinagar's course on Indian Knowledge Systems. I'm delighted today to welcome Dr. Ganesh, who lives in Bangalore and who has an encyclopedic knowledge of Indian languages and texts. Languages, he's fluent in Sanskrit, Pali, various Prakrits, Kannada, Telugu, Tamil, Hindi, and also a few foreign languages such as Greek, Latin, and Italian. And as I said, he has studied numerous Indian texts in depth and lectured on them very frequently. And his lectures are very highly rated and have benefited thousands of people across India. He's also noted for being a Śatāvadhānī. A Śatāvadhānī is someone who has performed one or several Śatāvadhānams and or their shrunk, let us say, toned down versions of Aṣṭāvadhānam, which are traditional competitions, almost intellectual games, where a scholar sits surrounded by either 8 or 100 other scholars who keep throwing challenges and questions and ask for extempore poetical compositions that will respect certain imposed limits, and they are all different from questioner to questioner, and then it goes round and round, step by step. It's a very impressive feat of memory. It requires an amazing concentration, and I was lucky to witness one such event in Bangalore a few years ago. It is an ancient and largely forgotten traditions, except perhaps among the Jains. And Dr. Ganesh was instrumental in reviving it in South India. So he is therefore a very skilled poet himself in composing Sanskrit poetry, but also in Kannada, Telugu. This means a mastery of all the techniques of Indian poetics, whether meter, whether all the techniques that go into highly rated composition of poetry. Because it is not sufficient in an Aṣṭāvadhānam to compose mediocre poetry, it should be excellent by all classical standards. Today we are going to follow a slightly different pattern at Dr. Ganesh's request. We will have his talk right now today and on Wednesday, and the talk will end at 4 o'clock. We will not take questions immediately, but we invite you to enter your questions either here in the Google Meet or on the YouTube comments for those who follow on YouTube. Please write your questions, we will save them, and we will have an interactive session on Thursday where we will take up all these questions and engage, let us hope, in a very fruitful discussion with Dr. Ganesh to explore further aspects. So for today, his chosen topics is an introduction to Indian poetics, its whole spirit and approach, and something perhaps of its techniques. And now I request Dr. Ganesh to take over and start his 2 talks today and Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Michel Ji. Thanks a lot. I'm extremely indebted to Gandhinagar IIT and particularly to Professor Michel Danino for giving me this opportunity so that I can share a few of our thoughts, not mine, our Indian thoughts regarding poetry, art, and poetics in general. I am going to divide these talks into 2 facets. Today, I will be speaking on basic concepts, avoiding the historical details, avoiding the technical details, which may involve a lot of technical terms. Broad-based philosophical concepts I will try to envisage and present in front of you. And day after tomorrow, I'll be discussing the same with historical details and other incidental features which may be of interest to people who want to explore more in this field. And finally, on day after tomorrow, next day, again, at another day, that's on Thursday, I'll be devoting completely for question and answers so that these two lectures will be complete. However, I have to confess here that it will be a very, very simple and beginner's introduction. That's why I request you not to expect too much, because apart from the students, there may be many other viewers also. When it is going to be presented on the YouTube, numerous people may look into it, and they should not feel that it's a very narrow and simplified approach. Of course, I have not simplified things. I'm trying to present them in as far as simple language and format as far as possible. In spite of that, people may be wanting something here, and this is my disclaimer of itself. Now, I presume that you've all gone through the brief synopsis which has been sent. Mostly based on that particular synopsis, I'll be discussing and clarifying few points which are presented there itself. Now, in Indian tradition, poetry is one among the arts. We have a hoary tradition of 64 arts, which include fine arts, applied arts, crafts, and many more. But poetry is one among the fine arts. Our aesthetics is universal, and it is equally applicable to all arts, irrespective of their medium, whether it is music or dance or painting or sculpture or poetry. Poetry belonging to any language of any country, everywhere it will be applicable. In that sense, Indian aesthetics is universal. This has to be borne in mind, because many times theories crop up, various concepts will be presented, but they may be timely. They may serve a specific purpose and end up there itself. They may have their eventual and rightful death also. But in the case of Indian aesthetics, it is not so. Usually, any theory, if it is becoming universal, then only it will have contemporary relevance as it is universal. Here in Indian poetics, the universality of it is established based on the concepts of rasa, dhvani, auchitya, and vakrata. I have defined them, I have given details in my synopsis also. I'm not going to the technicalities of all these features in detail. Now, we shall try to analyze our day-to-day experiences. All our experiences, mundane, intellectual, emotional, or whatsoever, they are all triggering likes and dislikes in our hearts. For example, if we look at anything, if we see sunrise or sunset, moonrise, ocean, nature, or whatsoever, we'll be having certain pleasant or unpleasant feeling. Pleasure and displeasure both are present, even with people, even when we come across food, or when we come across music, when we come across books, everywhere we'll be having these two things. Especially with our mundane life, we have lots of likes and dislikes. But sometimes, beyond likes and dislikes, coffee cannot be tasted by children, means they are accustomed to sweet taste, but not to this bitterness. But we have cultivated. This way, we'll be having a sense of relishment in such things also. This is how some experiences, by cultivation, they become enjoyable. While any amount of cultivation cannot come to our help, such experiences are also there. When we are trying to look into all such experiences, we come to one conclusion. Sometimes we become involved, we become judgmental, while at sometimes we are not. For example, when you are going to watch a film in a theater, a movie in a theater, you have to go there, wait. It is a specific area, it is of specific time, everything is specified. And if we lose that opportunity, we may not get it. Nowadays, we have plenty of opportunities. We can go to Amazon Prime or whatsoever, Netflix, and then watch those films. But earlier it was not so. Before 30 or 40 years in India, if we lose that film, means we have lost forever. Like that, it was the situation. So we had the what should I say? We had the we were ambitious and we were eager enough, and we had a sort of worry, a sort of discomfort in our senses, discomfort in our hearts, that we may lose that opportunity. And also we may try to save that forever. For example, if I read a book, I want to save it. If I relish a food, a drink, I have to save it, like that. But when we are watching that sunrise or moonrise or beautiful landscape or even seascape or skyscape or whatsoever, we are not bothered by that. When we get such botheration, it will be no more enjoyable. For example, when we are moving to our office or to our institution where we are working, if it is sunrise, we don't have any time to enjoy that. We cannot devote even 3-4 minutes. So leisure is very, very important. When we are anguished, when we are bothered by other things, we lose interest in the enjoyment where the object is so profound, so beautiful. Sunrise will become a signal to wake up, to go to our work. It will not be a piece of enjoyment. In that sense, when we are bothered by our own predicaments, our own preoccupations, our own interests, we are not enjoying things. Means what? We are already obsessed with certain things. We have our own likes and dislikes. We have our own preferences. All of us work according to our preferences, and then we lose interest, or we don't even have time to look into things which may be really beautiful. This is happening everywhere, every day. But in our experience, if we keep our selfishness for a while, if we suspend it for a while, we can enjoy. If I'm not bothered by my work schedule, I can enjoy sunrise, I can enjoy moonrise, I can enjoy the Baywatch, everything I can enjoy. In that way, unless we suspend our likes and dislikes for a while, unless we are not bothered by profit or loss in the mundane sense, we can't enjoy things. This way of disinterestedness in day-to-day life will certainly bring enjoyment, joy. This is one of the basic features with which Indian aesthetics proceeds. Why it is happening? Because we are all filled with emotions. No human being is devoid of emotions. When that is the case, our emotions are highly personal, and that's why we are unable to understand the emotions of other person easily. We all come across every day the problem of lack of communication. My communication is not proper, or I couldn't understand that person, and because of that, interpersonal relationships are all destroyed. Such an imbalance is because of this problem. Because emotions, however universal, they are highly personal. It's a very, very peculiar thing. All people have emotions. In that sense, it is universal. But at the same time, every person's emotions are not easy to understand. It's difficult to understand. We cannot enter into their heart and see. So, this opaqueness of emotions, that only makes them personal. In the case of art, emotions become universal. How? It's a magical thing. How come this magic has happened? This universality emotion is because they have become transparent. How could emotions become transparent? By a sort of disinterested approach, by suspending our likes and dislikes for a while. When we are come out of the clutches of worldly botheration, it's not a big thing. I'm not equating that with any supreme yogic experience or any metaphysical experience as such. Every day we are all feeling the same thing. Immediately we enjoy that. To give an example, we all know that 7 colors make white color. How come? If you take color pastels or any such thing, or crayons, and start using the colors one after the other, if all the 7 colors are mixed, what is the result? It will be a very dark color. Why? Because these colors are opaque in nature. Once you take colored glass pieces which are transparent in nature, and pass light through them, it will be white in color. So this transparency of colors yield white color. But if they are opaque, the opposite of white will be the result. In this sense, when we see bhava, individual emotion, is opaque. The same thing, when it becomes transparent, it will be rasa. This is not the difference. Personal emotions, when they are universalized, because of the universality, they become transparent. Rather, because of the transparency, they become universal. Then one and all could understand. If not, how can we appreciate, we Indians, how can we appreciate the epics of Homer, the tragedies of Shakespeare, or the social drama of Ibsen, or the thrilling stories of Sherlock Holmes? We cannot. Likewise, no non-Indian could have enjoyed our Ramayana, Mahabharata, Kalidasa, and the like. Why? Beyond space and beyond time, the enjoyment is happening because of the universality. This way of universality is called as Sadharanikarana in Indian context. I don't want to digress further regarding this. Now, coming back to this universality happens only by certain mechanism. Unless things are presented in certain features, we will not be feeling that universality. And for that, we need an artist. We cannot attain universality of emotions of others. We cannot recognize universality in the emotions of others, and hence we need the help of an artist. Without the help of an artist, if we could achieve that, we would have needed no artist. We would have become jnanis or yogis. In Indian philosophical tradition, it is said, a really enlightened person will see the whole world as a cosmic play, whole world as a profound comedy, whole world as great poetry. In the Vedas, the same thing is being said. Devasya pashyakavyam na mamaran jiryati. Look at the poetry of the God, the whole universe. It has no old age, no death. Likewise, it happens. As Dante calls divine comedy, that will happen. Hence, we need the help of an artist. If we don't need it, we are realized souls. We need the help of an artist means we are persons of taste. So when we are persons of taste, then we are ready to enjoy an art piece. For that, we need an artist, a musician, or a playwright, or dancer, or a sculptor, or painter, or poet, or whosoever. Now, coming back to these emotions, we have causation in the world. Cause and effect is universal. In Sanskrit, it is called karana and karya, cause and effect. And that's why it is called karya karana bhava. In the world, in the mundane world, which is always result oriented and not process oriented, the causation effect bothers very much. Always we are logical, always we are analytical, we are constantly bothered by the calculations of cause and effect. But in art, this botheration will be something different. And this is happening because we don't have any selfish goal there. If we watch a painting where beautiful, delicious grapes or bananas or mangoes are present, and a still life painting is present in front of us, a true art lover will not feel hungry by that and will not try to grab those fruits. An innocent boy or innocent kid would try to grab, and failing so, that kid would weep. But a mature person will not. At the same time, a person who is not at all having any bent of mind towards art would be reluctant towards that. But a person of taste would start enjoying the beauty of painting. Means his hunger, neither his hunger is kindled, nor is reluctant. To give yet another example, a painter would have painted an ugly old woman's portrait, but it is very vividly painted. And yet another painter would have painted a beautiful girl, but that painting quality may not be good. Which painting is beautiful? We have to see. The ugly old woman's painting, if it is very well painted, it is a beautiful painting. While the beautiful girl's painting, which is presented in a bad fashion, is an ugly painting. It is not a good painting. Means here the material value is immaterial. Material value is not at all noticed. It is the skill of the artist, the combinations of colors, the wielding of the brush, the light and shadow effect, the 3D effect, or whatsoever. All these things, they become more important than the so-called material beauty of that particular object. This is not possible in the world. In the world, if an young man is given a choice between an old woman and a charming young girl, certainly he would go for a young girl. These worldly calculations will not apply in art, because art experience is basically selfless experience. Only when we become selfless, we can enjoy. Selfishness is the basic hindrance, is the prime hindrance in art enjoyment. And that's why in Indian aesthetics, we call kama, desire, or selfishness, that triggers action. Most of our actions are driven by our likes and dislikes, I told. Mainly, when we like something, we want to pursue that. So our pursuits are driven by our desires. But in art experience, either kama or karma are present, only enjoyment is present. Neither desire nor action which is triggered by desire are present in our mundane, in our art experience. And that's why we see the object in a distant way, in an impersonal way, and in a true way, and in an enjoyable way. That's why personal preferences will be diminished and universality naturally upsurges. Then, when we are involved in art experience, let us move further. I told about karya and karana, cause and effect. That is mundane. But how come in art it will have its way? In art we call vibhava and anubhava. Bharata mentions in Nāṭya-śāstra vibhava and anubhava. Vibhava means cause and anubhava means effect. Don't be disturbed or perplexed by such terms. For example, if I have a desire, if I am loving a person, the person with whom I am in love, that becomes my trigger. And so it is vibhava. And my reactions towards that person becomes anubhava. Means if I see my friend, I'm a very good friend of him, so is he. Then when I look at him, immediately my face becomes glowing. I start smiling and my hands come forward to shake hands. Like that, my body will react. So how my eyes react, how my hands, how my face brightens, all these things are called anubhava. In art, this is vibhava and anubhava. In the worldly sense, it is cause and effect. Why vibhava and anubhava? Because there is no material benefit here. In art, there is no material benefit. Artist may get material benefit, but connoisseur will not get any material benefit. And that's why we are essentially focusing our approach towards connoisseur and not towards artist. It's a separate thing. When an artist is getting an idea, the situation will be something different. When he conceives that thought, he too is or she too is a connoisseur. But when he presents the art, when he fabricates it, when he creates or writes or produces, later when he starts marketing, then the situations are different. Then he is no more an artist for that moment, has become a businessman. Like it goes on. So, cause and effect are treated in a different way in art. And that's why it becomes ethereal in nature, metaphysical in nature. Metaphysical means nothing mystic. Metaphysical means the worldly rule of cause and effect is not applicable here. Then we have yet another feature of how our innate emotions become universal and enjoyable. Personal emotions, how they become universal and enjoyable. All of us are filled with emotions, and these emotions are called Sthayi Bhava in Indian aesthetics. All these terminologies find their place in Bharata's Nāṭya-śāstra, and later literature has profusely used them. Sthayi means permanent, means they are always present. Sthayi Bhava. Bhava means the state of being. That is the literal meaning. Bhava means the world. Anything which is connected with the world, it is our mundane existence, it is our physical and emotional existence, all that is called as bhava. These bhavas are present. When these bhavas are sublimated, that becomes rasa. These same bhavas become rasa. In the synopsis which I have given the rasas also and their names, and a rough English translation has also been given. Here, how come our bhavas, our personal bhavas become rasa? When they become rasa, when they are triggered properly. Usually, in the mundane sense, in the worldly sense, our emotions are the same emotions. When we are subjected to love, when we are subjected to fear, the same old emotions, they crop up. But when we watch on the screen, when we watch them on the stage, when we read in the book, when we hear them, it will be different. How it is going to become so? Indian rasa theory has something to say regarding that. The characters presented in a novel or in a play or in a film, they are not real. They are fictitious. Even if they are historical in nature, or even if they are contemporary in nature, when they become art, they will lose their personal identity. They will lose their personal biases. If they are not losing, there is something wrong either with the poet or the artist or with the Kanashi. I'm not going to discuss them in detail. It's yet another thing itself. Altogether, it's a different chapter. They are called Rasa Vijnana. The hurdles or the impediments which come in the way of aesthetic experience. Abhinavagupta, the great commentator of Nāṭya-śāstra, he gives them, he discusses them, 7 in number, he enlists. I'm not here to discuss them. Well, when we are watching the art piece, there the hero and the heroine are present. If we imagine it as a love scene, the hero and heroine, they are mutual with each other. To one, the other will become Vibhava. If Radha and Krishna are there, Radha will become the trigger, prime trigger to Krishna, and to Krishna, Radha, to Radha, Krishna will become so. And then, while seeing Radha, Krishna reacts. He smiles at her, he mischievously looks at her. All these things happen. They are Anubhava. And these things, they invoke emotions in us. They trigger our emotions, and we have permanent emotions or dominant emotions, Sthayi Bhavas, the main emotions. And Bharata speaks of transitory emotions also. And they are called Vyabhichari Bhavas. They move here and there. All these things, they put together, they get sublimated, and we relish rasa. How it happens? Because I am neither Krishna nor Radha. I am not trying to become Krishna in front of Radha. I am not even attempting any way to become Radha. I am just watching. I'm just watching, but I'm watching with all compassion, with all empathy. I'm neither over-involved nor under-involved. For example, if I develop the mundane likes and dislikes, then I will be jealous of Krishna or Radha because I'm not getting such a partner. So it becomes over-involvement. Under-involvement means those two boys and girls may do so many things. I'm not bothered. I have my own business. Like that, we become reluctant. This way of over-involvement and under-involvement will not be present in true art experience. If such is the thing, then that person who is undergoing art experience is not qualified to appreciate art. More involvement means dragging the world into the world of art, dragging the mundane world into the world of art. And under-involvement means going away from the world of art itself. Both are wrong. In the Western aesthetics, this concept is called psychic distance, and this concept in Indian aesthetics is called Śatāvadhānī. Śatāvadhānī means optimum involvement. To bring in an example, telling example from the lore of science, I should take two electrodes, cathode and anode. When they are placed nearer, if the distance is optimum between them, then an electric arc will be struck. If the distance is too close, the current passes through. If the distance is too big, the current will not neither pass through nor strikes an arc. So to strike an arc, electric arc, we need optimum distance. This way of involving without involvement is what we expect in a true Sahridaya, and such an ambience has to be created by the artist also, because the world of art should be reliable, should be dependable, means the situations should look real like. They are not entirely realistic, they should look real like. At the same time, over realism is bad. If a person is going to kill another person, if the thing happens in reality, then it will be murder. It will not be art. At the same time, if we are unable to believe it, then the artist is not giving proper equations of vibhava and anubhava. What is ultimately the work of artist? What is the responsibility of the artist? To create proper ambience for vibhava and anubhava to happen. Vibhava and anubhava to manifest. It means aesthetic equation of cause and effect has to be properly presented by the artist. If that is not done by the artist, it is his folly. If the connoisseur, in spite of that being properly created by the artist, is not finding it enjoyable, then there comes the difficulty with the connoisseur. So we need both, and that's why in Indian aesthetics, connoisseur has been given a high position on par with the creative artist. And that's why in Indian aesthetics, connoisseur called Sahridaya means his heart is beating with the same rhythm of the artist. Sahridaya, Samanam Hridayam Yasya Saha. He who is next to the heart of artist is called Sahridaya. And these two entities, artist and Sahridaya, artist and connoisseur, are the two faces of the same coin, art. And that's why Ānandavardhana, the greatest theoretician of Indian aesthetics after Bharata, says, Saraswatyāstatvam kavi sahridayakṣam vijayate. The principle of Saraswati, Abhinav Gupta, while commenting upon the work of Ānandavardhana, Dhanyaluka, in the benedictory verse itself, he says, Saraswatyāstatvam kavi sahridayakṣam vijayate. It means the dual concept of Kavi and Sahridaya, artist and connoisseur, is the seat of Saraswati, is the essence of Saraswati, is the philosophy of Saraswati. So, artist will have the responsibility to create proper ambience for vibhava and anubhava, and that he can create through words, then he becomes poet. If he can create through colors and lines, curves, he becomes a painter. If he creates that with the movement and posture, he becomes a dancer. If it is created through tunes which have sounds which are properly placed with rhythm, it means with shruti and laya, he becomes a singer or a musician. If it is done in a three-dimensional way with light and shadow effect, he becomes a sculptor. And if it is presented on the screen with the help of camera, he becomes a director or an actor, like that. So to all aspects of art, to all sorts of arts, this theory holds good. Well, now comes the other concept of suggestion. because experience is the most important thing. Ultimately, in art enjoyment, what is left for us, it is experience. Nothing more than that, nothing less than that also. For art is ultimately experiencing the beauty, experiencing our own emotions without getting involved, without getting more involved, without being taken away, without being disturbed. This is how enjoying our joy is the real purpose of art. But this experience of the artist is going to be conveyed to the connoisseur. Artist would have enjoyed something. For example, Wordsworth would have seen daffodils. Having enjoyed beautiful yellow flowers of daffodils, he wrote the poem, Daffodils. And while reading, we try to feel the emotions of the poet, that experience, how experience of one person can be transferred to the other. In the mundane life, we find often and often this difficulty of feeling the other, knowing the feelings of the other. And that's why communication gap happening. That's why misunderstanding happening. That's why marriages break up. That's why friendship gets destroyed. All these things because we are unable to experience the other. And often we have one standard quote, enter into those shoes, enter into his shoes, then only you'll be knowing the problems of that person. How to? Because information can be transferred, material things can be transferred, but emotional feel, how to transfer it? It's almost an impossible thing. And that's why emotions cannot be transferred. They can neither be uploaded or downloaded. Then how? They can only be suggested. So emotions have to be suggested. Here comes the concept of suggestion. Rasa is experience, and the way to rasa is suggestion. And suggestion through what? Suggestion through certain expression. It's a very beautiful paradox, rather apparent paradox. Expression cannot communicate experience. But how come expression can suggest things, and this suggestion can make us realize emotions? And here we have the chain of Indian aesthetics. We have the chain of rasa, dhvani, vakrata. Vakrata is expression, is beautiful construction, whether in the form of words, whether in the form of sounds, whether in the form of movements, whether in the form of colors. All these are put together called as expression, vakrata. In Sanskrit, vakrata means not mere crookedity, not mere obliqueness. Vakrata means beauty. Means objective, beautiful thing is called vakrata. Objective, beautiful expression is called vakrata. It is tangible. If you see a sculpture, beautiful sculpture, it is objective, it is tangible. But the beauty of it can be experienced, and that is intangible. That's why not all people can appreciate the same sort of music. Not all people can appreciate the same sort of poetry. People's taste differs. And that's why, though the object is same, people have different experiences. That's how objective side of art is in vakrata. Then the subjectivity comes with suggestion. The same object can suggest in different ways. For example, if one person says, it is now twilight, it is now dawn, or it is now dusk. A person says, no, it is evening. Listening to the same sentence, one would feel, this is the time to go to temple, a devotee. And the other would say, this is the time to go to a music concert. He is a connoisseur, rasika. Another would say, it is my time to go for the second shift. He is a worker in a workshop or in a factory or so. And another person would say, it is time to go to play. He may be a boy or girl who may be interested in cricket or whatsoever. That's how the same sentence would suggest in different ways. In the mundane world itself, suggestions are different. In art, there may be many layers of suggestions. One example I shall give from Sanskrit poetry. Radha and Krishna, we shall take it. for it is very easy to comprehend. Krishna is going away from Gokul to Mathura. You all know the story, I suppose. Krishna, who grew up as an young lad in Gokul Vrindavan on the banks of Mathura, on the banks of Yamuna, is going to Mathura and face Kamsa, the tyrant. And when he is about to leave for Mathura, Radha, his beloved, approaches him. Are you going, Krishna? Yes, I am going. Then she says, if I say you don't go, it is a bad omen. If I say you stay here itself, it is domination. You do whatever you feel like. It is a sort of neutrality which is very passive in nature. Without you, I can't live. It may be a too big a statement. It may not become a reality altogether. And that being the case, oh Krishna, please teach me those few words of bidding farewell to you, because I am unable to know what to say when you are leaving me. Maya hi iti apamangalam brajakila snehena shunyam vachaha tishteti prabhuta yatharuchi kurushva atrapi udasinata no jivami vina tvayeti vachanam sambhavyate va nava tanmam shikshaya Krishna yat samuchitam vakyam tvayi prasthite. If you say don't go, it is not auspicious. If you say you do as you like it, it is reluctance. Without you, I can't live. It may be a tall climb. It may be exaggerated expression. Like that, there are so many ambiguities in these things. That's why please teach me that sentence. What this would suggest, to a true connoisseur, it would suggest even Krishna cannot teach Radha the required sentence, because the times of separation is so deep. The love between Radha and Krishna is so deep. Krishna would become dumb. Krishna would be muted. This is the beautiful suggestion that would naturally, this idea of Krishna cannot say anything. Krishna, in spite of being such a learned person, such a witty man, he is unable to give one hint to Radha what to say, what word of farewell she can say. He is unable to do so. Means Krishna too is moved by the deep love of Radha, and their times of separation is unimaginable. All these things are suggested. The one suggestion that Krishna is unable to give anything would lead to ripples of suggestion because of their deep love. Means the emotion of love, the rasa, shringara, in viraha, in separation, is realized by us. This is how, in the expression, nowhere we find any clue that Krishna and Radha were lovers. Krishna and Radha were loving deeply. Nothing is suggested. Yet another example from Ramayana I shall give. Vali has been killed by Rama, and Sugriva is coronated, and Rama is waiting for help from Sugriva, for he has to get Sita, and Vanaras, the army of Sugriva, should move everywhere and search for Sita. Unless this is done, Rama cannot move further. Then that is the case. Sugriva is completely has forgotten the assignment and indulged in sensual pleasures. Then Rama becomes angry. He sends Lakshmana with a message. The message, in the words of Valmiki, goes like this. Nacha sankuchita pantha yena vali gato hataha samaye tishta Sugriva ma vali pathamanvaga. O Sugriva, the way by which your elder brother Vali went, that has not been closed completely. It is still wide open. Please be sincere to the agreement. Be committed to the agreement. Samaya means agreement, and also time. Bother about the time. Samaye tishta Sugriva ma vali pathamanvaga. You should not tread the path of Vali. Here in this verse, nowhere Rama is scolding Sugriva. You cunning man, you rascal, you scoundrel, and you have insulted me, and you have offended me, you have cheated me. No such expressions have been used. What he is saying, you should not tread the path of your elder brother, which is wide open already. It means, without even saying what the real thing to be said, The real thing has been so well communicated. Every day we do in one way or the other. Much of our witty expressions belong to the same category. This is how the wrath of Rama, the krodha of Rama is suggested, and we enjoy that. When we are enjoying the wrath of Rama, it becomes rasa. Because if you want to help Rama, if that is a play going on in the theater, on the diyas, on the stage, if we are jumping on the stage, we are going to jump onto the stage and try to comfort Rama. Oh Rama, please don't bother. I will help for you. All these things, if you are not saying, then we are really enjoying rasa. But at the same time, I know this particular Rama is a character, and that role has been taken by my laborer by name some Tom, Dick, and Harry, and that's why all this is fictitious, all this is bogus, under involvement. In both the cases, rasa are not present. When I am enjoying means when Rama is weeping, when Rama is lamenting for the separation from Sita, still we enjoy means not that we are clapping and we are smiling or laughing. This empathy itself is enjoyment. The pain of Rama is felt in an indirect way. We feel for him, at the same time we are not him. A very, very peculiar ambiguity, involving without involvement. That is it. This is something like an enlightened soul, how he looks at the world. He is within and beyond. He is part of the world and at the same time he is out of the world. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, a jnani, an enlightened soul, will be in the world like a lotus leaf which is dipped in water. Padma patram ivambhasa. We all know lotus leaf, because of its oily surface, will never get drenched, will never get soaked in water, in spite of it being immersed in water. That's how involving without involvement happens. And that's why art will be a great therapy, art will be great education, and art will be great yoga also. Why? This sort of disinterested enjoyment cannot happen in our mundane life, a day-to-day life, because of our preoccupations and botherations, because of our likes and dislikes. But art makes that possible, though for a while, though for a short while. And for that moment, we are not ourselves. As in our sleep, we will be so comforted, we will be so happy, we will be in the blissful state, and once we wake up, all our problems crop up. In that way, this is a sort of wakeful sleep. This is a sort of layman's yoga, and this is a sort of wakeful sleep, and that is happening in art experience. And this secret of art experience has been decoded by Indian institutions, starting from Bharata, then Ānandavardhana, Abhinavagupta, and Kuntaka. I think we have few more minutes left. Suggestion I told, and this suggestion is called Dhvani. Why it is called Dhvani? When we ring a bell, it resonates. Ripples of sound, they are heard, and Dhvani is that. And rasa means experience, enjoyment. Why it is called rasa? It is taste. It is also called as that which is to be tasted. Rasyante iti rasaha, and rasanam rasaha. Very taste. When we are tasting something, we have subject-object difference. When we are the very taste itself, then there is no subject-object difference. We are one with the situation. Both happen. In the initial stage, rasyante rasaha, we are going to taste. And in the peak, we forget that we are watching. This will happen in intense art experience. When you are deeply involved in listening music, or in watching movie, or in watching beautiful nature, we forget that we are watching, we forget we are listening to it. This way of deep involvement makes us lose our body consciousness. This is how rasa becomes the real seat of enjoyment, where subject-object different, though for a while it ceases to exist. But when suggestion is being created by the artist, when an atmosphere for suggestion is created by the artist, that suggestion should be properly received. Yes. When we are not going to receive it in a proper way, means suggestion should be properly contexted. The coordinates of suggestions should be palatable. They should be agreeable. This sort of spatio-temporal frame of suggestion is called auchitya or propriety. For example, we say, though the suggestion was present, it was vulgar. It was of bad taste. Like that we say when we hear some cheap joke. When we watch a movie, we say it is vulgar. Because though they haven't shown anything in an ugly manner, the suggestion itself is bad. The word used there in that particular poem or particular story has bad suggestions. Means our social conditioning, cultural conditioning is abhorring that suggestion. When a suggestion is abhorred by a context, then that is called as anuchitya. When a suggestion is well received, that is called auchitya. When once the suggestion is properly received, immediately it triggers rasa. And that's why auchitya or propriety is the secret of rasa. Ānandavardhana says, rasasya Upanishad para. Proper suggestion is the secret and hallmark of rasa. This is how artist's creation, vakrata, connoisseur's ability to recognize suggestion is sahridayata, and the suggestion is dhvani, and accepted suggestion is uchita dhvani, and acceptance, propriety is called auchitya, and ultimate art experience is rasa. To sum up, I should say, first the artist would have experienced that joy. Unless we are happy, we cannot make others happy. This is the equation beneath this Indian aesthetics. First, any artist should become a connoisseur. Unless we become connoisseurs, unless we develop taste to enjoyment, we cannot create the objects of enjoyment. So, an artist is basically a sahridaya, a connoisseur. When he gets the idea, how come he gets the idea? It is not in his hands. And there, inspiration, imagination comes to picture. Then at that moment, he develops his creativity and creates that art in the form of poem or painting or whatsoever. While creating, he needs the tools of that particular art discipline. And there his erudition comes to picture. When he's a poet, he should use proper words, proper meter, proper imagery, and proper alliteration. All these things are needed. So getting an idea, we did not have all this erudition and other things. But to materialize an idea, we need it. Everybody in that sense will have a flash. And that flash is called pratibha, imagination. Creative imagination is the forte of artist. Appreciative imagination is the forte of connoisseur, sahridaya. Well, when once the artist gets the idea, he can create because he has tools. But when we get an idea, as we don't have tools, we are unable to create, but we can appreciate such creation. When we develop tools, we can appreciate it better. When we become richer and richer with tools, we ourselves can create. So a connoisseur can become an artist as well. This is how the cycle continues. I hope time is up. We shall meet day after tomorrow and elaborate more on these things. Thank you.